Hi kids, it's me, c'est moi, Monsieur Antoine, Mr. Tony, and it's time for another video art lesson. And I was speaking French because this week our country is France, okay, and we've been doing all things French. And here we have my introduction, and I began with the word art, which was done like a French flag, like this, with a little bit of French impressionist texture. And that was what I did with the little kids. With you guys, the older kids, we did this style. And if you recall, that was kind of inspired by this artist, a Dutch artist, Van Gogh, who had this swirly style. And he was influenced by the Impressionists, but he started to do something a little different. And I'm going to talk about that a little later, a little bit more. And it will connect with what we're doing today. But anyway, let's get back to this. We started out with the French flag in the word art. And then down here, we did this picture, this kind of art, which is Impressionism. And here is the picture I made with crayons. And that was inspired by the great French Impressionist Claude Monet. Okay, water lilies. And that looks like a Monet, I think. And if you did the same thing and got that crayon texture, you may very well have a impressionist picture as well. Okay, you just have to give it a nice texture, nice dabs of color. Okay, and that was the impressionist art lesson. And then last time we did this thing, which really was the hardest lesson of the summer of all, actually the hardest lesson of all the YouTube lessons I've done. If you gave it a try, even just tried to do it, I would be impressed because it's very architectural. It's very much like engineering and complex. Okay, a lot of lines. And this thing is the Eiffel Tower. And the important lesson there was that this structure was made in France. We learned a little bit of French history of the World's Fair, where they made that great tower. Okay, the Eiffel Tower, designed by Gustave Eiffel. And here's what I drew. And if you were able to do just a tall, pointy shape with a bunch of lines on it that sort of look like steel girders, that would be great. Or if you really wanted to work at it, you could. You could find a picture of it, or you could freeze frame whatever it is I was doing and just try to copy your best. I added a little more because I thought it still didn't look too good. I added some shadows and stuff. Okay, but that was our Eiffel Tower lesson, the great French Eiffel Tower in Paris, the city of Paris in France. Okay, that's so far. What are we going to do today? Well, you'll notice I've added something. This picture is getting very busy. It's almost chock full, but I've added some simple shapes this time. Okay, there's no texture going on here. These are simple, solid shapes. And up here, I think you'll recognize this. It's a sun. Then over here, I got some people. There's a person, and there's another person over there. And then there's some wavy lines back here. That's supposed to be water. And then down here, I have these plant-like things that look kind of like seaweed. I'm thinking they're seaweed. Okay, but the thing about that art that I made, that I added, is it's very simple, solid shapes. And that's inspired by another French artist whose name is Henri Matisse. That's actually Henry, but the French pronounce it Henri. Okay, and Henri Matisse, oops, I had this all set up. Henri Matisse came just after the Impressionists, and he made art like this. This is one of his early paintings, and you can see he didn't have a lot of texture. It's pretty much solid colors, right? And it's actually not terribly realistic. Look at those trees. They look like cotton balls, cotton candy. And then on here, there's a design on the tablecloth, and then this colorful, playful design up here, and the woman, she's kind of just a bunch of simple shapes. Okay, that's that art. Very different from Impressionism, which has lots of textures, lots of dabs. It looks very realistic, but it's done with dabs. This artwork, on the other hand, is not very realistic. It's kind of playful, and that's the way Matisse painted. He wanted to make things more lively and playful. And I'm going to go back to Van Gogh a little bit too. Van Gogh. This was the flag we made, inspired by Van Gogh. He was painting around the time of Matisse as well. And all of those artists, Matisse, Van Gogh, who were painting just after the Impressionists, were making kind of wild, playful pictures. In fact, they were called Fauvists. To begin with, they were called Fauvists, and that means wild. I think it means wild. Okay, and this picture is kind of wild. Same thing with Matisse, although I wouldn't call his artwork wild. It was more playful, okay, in comparison to the Impressionists, which was very kind of soft and delicate and nice looking. You know, Matisse's work was a little magical, a little more playful. That's how he started out, and then he later on did work like this. Okay, and he called these cutouts because that's what they were. They were just cutouts of paper, different shapes, these what looked like to me plant shapes like seaweed. I think there's a bird here, and then I believe this is a person, kind of a person leaping. But you can see this is not very realistic at all. It's more like a design. It's almost abstract. It's very playful. Okay, and that's what I made this art up here based on. You know, these figures are simple, like Matisse's. Let me put this down, hold on. Don't want to drop it. Okay, they're simple shapes, solid shapes. Okay, they're not cutouts. I thought you may not have construction paper at home. So I just made simple solid shapes with marker, okay? But they look like cutouts, okay? They look like a Matisse piece of art. Okay, this is entirely different. It's got all that Impressionist texture, but these are solid Matisse shapes, playful shapes. Okay, so that's what we're gonna do today. Okay, let's see, what do I need to do? I should have a script. I should have a script written out so I know exactly what I'm gonna do. And a person with cue cards saying, this now, Mr. Tony, because sometimes I forget. Sometimes I forget if I said something and I don't want to repeat myself. Okay, but I haven't shown you what we're gonna use yet, and it's pretty simple. We're gonna use paper and markers. Very simple lesson today. Much easier than the Eiffel Tower lesson. And as I was saying before, or I think I said it before, I didn't expect you to do that. I was hoping you would just watch and see how I construct a very complex picture like that. Okay, you could try it. There's some of you who are good at that, as I was saying. Jonathan, Sincere, Travis, Lamont, all you guys like doing, you know, that intricate stuff. So you give it a try. There's probably some others too. Or you could just make it very simple. Make a tall, pointy shape, bunch of lines that look like steel girders, and you're done. Okay, but I wanted to show you how, if you really spent time and really worked on it, you could make something that looks like the Eiffel Tower. Okay, enough of that. Today, something simple. Okay, we're gonna make a little ocean scene, and I'm gonna start with the sun. A nice summer sun. We've been having a lot of summer sun so far this summer. Okay, a circle. There's something like a circle, but here you're gonna have to slow down and try to make it look solid. I'd say that's the lion's share of the work here. Lion's share means that's the bigger part of doing the work here, is really slowing down and making sure you got something that looks like a solid shape. Okay, so that's the circle. It doesn't have to be a perfect circle. It should be kind of imperfect, actually, if you want it to look like a Matisse picture. Okay, and then the rays, I'm just going to make these little squiggly lines, and I'm going to fill them in nice and solid. Another one there. And maybe another one over here. They're almost like little S curves. Okay, and they're all pointing away from the center. But they're not like the usual rays you'd see on a picture of the sun. And usually rays are just pointing straight out. Little sun icon rays are usually just pointing straight out, but these are wiggly, like a Matisse. Okay, and there it is, a Matisse sun. Next, some water. And we're just going to do the top part of the ocean, right around the middle of the page here. And I'm going to make the same kind of little wavy line like that. Now, if I were doing a painting, say a watercolor, I'd just fill in the whole area down here to make it look like water. But I'm doing a Matisse style cutout picture, so I'm just doing what looks like cutout pieces of paper, blue pieces. And if I do enough of them, it's going to look like water. Or at least you'll look at it and you say, ah, it's a sun and that's some water. Okay, but I'm gonna go on to something else down here. I'm gonna do some of this kelp-like business. Seaweed type shapes that I was showing you here, like this. This looks like seaweed to me. I don't think it actually is seaweed, or that's exactly what Matisse was thinking. I think he just liked these playful shapes, but they could work as seaweed in our picture. So that's what I'm gonna do. They kind of remind me of the flowers that are floating around in SpongeBob's environment, Bikini Bottom, right? He's got those wiggly flower shapes, but they're not solid shapes. We're gonna make solid shapes. Okay, let's do one right here. Let me move in. It's kind of like a hand, kind of like fingers, but more than 5 fingers, like that, see? And then I'll fill it in. Again, you have to slow down here and really try and make it solid so it looks like a cutout. Now, when we get back to school in the fall, in the autumn, whether or not you're in school or you're working at home, I'm going to try to make sure you all have some construction paper and scissors and everything you'll need to make whatever it is I have planned. But I'm just sticking with markers today because I wasn't sure you'd have construction paper. But in the future, I'll try to make sure you have some construction paper. If we were doing a lesson like this with cutouts, you would be able to use construction paper. Okay, and then let's see another, maybe smaller one over here. Like that. That's pretty good. I don't want to do too many of those seaweed things. Fill it in a little better. Get every little spot of white. I know sometimes you kids, you kind of rush things, especially with markers. You rush so fast that the marker ink can't come out and it looks like it's dry because you go so quick. But take your time. There's not much more going on here, so it shouldn't take too long. Okay, a little more water. These cutout type shapes, right? I'm keeping them all pretty simple, all kind of the same. They're all following the same sort of wavy pattern. So maybe I'll have one go down here like this. Maybe a little one over there. And one over here. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And this is where the creative part comes in. You know, like, how do I arrange these shapes? And how many shapes should I add? You can see with Matisse, he really filled things in, but there's a lot of nice breathing room in between things. There's a lot of white space in between all those shapes he made. Those are negative spaces. Did I mention that looks like a bird? Yes, I did. I think. I forgot whether I mentioned that. You know, like I was saying, this is kind of like abstract art, kind of like a design, but these are kind of like plant life, and that's something like a bird, and over here, this is something like a leaping person. So Matisse was still making representational art, but it was far from realistic. He was a post-impressionist, and he made all this playful cutout art, which is what we're doing here. Playful cutouts. Maybe I need one over here. One more. Okay, and that's it for the ocean scene. And if you're working along with me and you just have that, you could call it done as it is, just an ocean scene with the nice summer sun floating in the sky and some seaweed floating in the water. But if you want to take it a little further, I'm going to add something on the water. I'm going to add a sailboat. Okay, and what color would a sailboat be? Well, usually sailboats are white. I don't know that I've seen too many brightly colored sailboats. My brother had a sailboat and he kept it in a marina, which is where they keep boats, and pretty much all the boats were white. Maybe they'd have some colorful trim, but they were mostly white. But our paper here is white, so we couldn't do a white cutout and put it on top. You wouldn't see it. So I'm gonna pick a color. And that's okay because it's a playful picture. It doesn't have to be realistic. And we can use the color for the boat. So I'm gonna use this turquoise color. Yep, turquoise. It's kind of a blue-green. And where should I put the boat? I could put it here, right under the sun. Over here, maybe here on top of this little wave. This is where I have to think. Where would be a good spot for it? I think right here. That gives it nice balance. You get the sun here, get the boat here, get the ocean there. Okay. And the boat is just going to be a simple shape like that. And then the sail, I got the same problem with the sail. The sail is typically white. Sometimes people will have the front sail, which is called the spinnaker. They'll have that all sorts of fun colors, maybe rainbow colors. But usually sails are white, and we can't make a white sail. It won't work, so I was thinking either a tan sail or a gray sail. What would go good with that? I'm going to go with gray. Okay, gray sail. And what shape is a sail? Well, it's a triangle, but all of these shapes are curvy, so I'm going to make the triangle kind of curvy as well, like that. Okay, and that's actually realistic because the sail is usually puffed out by the wind, if there's wind, and it's not a straight triangle. It's got a curve because of the wind. And that's all I'm going to add there. I'm not going to put the mast up there which holds the sail, because this is supposed to be simple, a simple cutout drawing. But I am going to add one more thing in the boat. And it's going to really bring this picture to life. I'm going to add a person, okay? So you can relate to it a little bit more. Someone in the sailboat. So again, it's going to be a simple Matisse shape, and for that, I'm just going to make a little oval head, and then I'm going to make the arm kind of curvy like this. Maybe I can get both arms in there, but it's going to have kind of just a curve and a simple point. No fingers, no hands, no details, just simple shapes. Okay, and I'm going to have this arm up here like this. Then maybe I'll have that arm down there. Maybe he's holding the rudder or whatever it is they use to steer. Some sailboats have a helm, which is like a big steering wheel. Some of them just have a simple stick that kind of steers the rudder. Okay, so there he is, or she. And I'm going to add one more thing. Last thing, I promise. I need two colors for it. Start with a little red. A little red curve, a little red rectangle with a bit of a curve, and then I'm going to leave a little space, a little white space, and then add a little blue curve. And what is it? It's hard to get a crisp shape because it's so small. I think if I bring it in, you'll recognize that is a French flag. Okay, so that's it. That's it for our week of lessons about French art and all things French in the country of France. Okay, and actually that is it for me for the summer session, because I am only doing lessons officially during the month of July. So I won't be around doing my lessons every day in August, and next week is August. So this is the last lesson of this week, and officially the last lesson for me for the summer, but I will be checking in, okay? I'll be probably making some of my own art, and I won't have a lot to do, so I'll check in. I'll do a little video. I don't know if I'll do a lesson, but I will check in with you just in case you miss me. You may not miss me. Say, oh, enough art already, or maybe you will. But maybe I'll just make a little video of whatever it is I'm working on, okay? Which might interest you. Okay, so that's it. That's it for our week of France and all of our countries of the summer. Okay, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.